As I said, we're going to cut our pita at the end of this, and I hope that you will stay for that in the reception. And without any more on that, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Hara Papatheodorou, an Athenian native. She has good Canadian connections. She studied at McGill University in Montreal, Canada, that cold and frigid place we just revisited last week. And she has taught for many years at Iéri College in Iapar, Skvi. She has a very interesting background. Not only is she a scholar focusing on aspects of Byzantine art, she's also an artist, a painter. And she often combines the two, so that she's well known in the arts world for her work, as well as in the scholarly world. And it's not often that we see such a combination of active artist and scholar at the same time. She's particularly interested in fairy tales in art, and she talks about that, and she also illustrates that, and that our lecture this evening is going to relate to work that she started with her doctoral dissertation from the University of Vienna, which is on the iconography of angels in Byzantine art. In this case, we get to find out what the angels actually did. They had to earn a living somehow, and obviously forever there's no really retirement in heaven, I would imagine. So they had to toil away, and that we're very interested in learning more. But before I started, I promised this. I just came back, my wife and I just came back from a lecture tour in Canada for almost 3 weeks, and we stopped in many places, and so I want to welcome, because we're a live stream, if you can't make it to our lectures, you can watch them live stream at through our website. And some of the lectures, in fact, are also, they're all videoed, but some of them are put up on our YouTube channel, so you can watch them afterwards. So I'm hoping that in Winnipeg, I'm looking at you right now, in Winnipeg there's a great audience, a large audience for this. Also in Edmonton, because they want to get a glimpse of a former student of theirs, Lana, and Calgary as well. And then at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, at Simon Fraser, in Burnaby, and in Victoria. So all of these places, why don't you turn around and wave at them and say, welcome to the lecture. Okay. There you go. Nice to see you. And we're going to find out, because we know from our software how many people. We don't know where they're watching from. We know how many people we're watching. So we're looking for a big spike tonight in our audience, and which should continue as well in the subsequent lectures. Okay, so Hara, it's time for you to take over and for me to stop occupying this. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you very much for letting me inaugurate the spring or winter spring program. And thank everyone who came tonight, all colleagues and also some of my own students. And some of them are following like my scenes, but I hope they'll come tonight by the entrance. So, the bureaucracy of the divine. It was coined by Professor Herman Ball from Paul's and Wittenberg in Luther University, and in his doctorate, mεσιτεία. Plato in Phaedrus writes that the soul is immortal, and only winged arrows have the power to lift man to the gods above. Thus, the function between take what is heavy and raise it up into the region above, where the gods dwell. Of all things connected with the body, it has the greatest affinity with the divine. Plato here introduces the idea that the gods do not communicate directly with man, but with an intermediary, a demon, because they dwell in an imperial world. Likewise, the Christian angels became the link in a theocratic system and communicate God's word to humankind, serving as heavenly messengers, guardians, or intermediaries. Angels represent the human belief in their power of meditating with the divine, ιερή, μεσιτεία. Nevertheless, the name angel, which derives from the Greek word angelos, is not exclusively connected with Christianity. Its origin is very old and goes back to the Sumerian in Mesopotamia. An Akkadian inscription of the second millennium BC tells us that he who has no god or a guardian angel, when he walks in the street, wears a headache like a garment. Thorkild Jacobson indicates that it was the fear of the supernatural hostile forces that made the Sumerians and Akkadians seek and find their personal gods to placate the Numians. Eventually they would be called Utuku, genii, and would be divided into two groups, the good and the evil. The benevolent ones were called Sedu, the male, and lamassu, the female, and acted as guardian spirits. Both factions of genii were divided into 7 adversaries and may have indicated heavenly luminaries. The iconography of lamassu, the winged anthropomorphic bull, in spite of the Assyro-Babylonian appearance, stems from Sumerian art. Here we have 2 rectangled anthropomorphic bearded bulls with horned tiaras but without wings. From Zissou in Tello, both circa 2150 BC. They are carved in steatite. At the same period, the Sumerian goddess Lama was the guardian of humankind and the messenger of the gods. We encounter her for the first time in a relief from Zissou, circa 2150 BC. The goddess in an around position, supplication, guards the entrance to the temple. A finest example is a statuette from the palace of King Zuri from the city of Mari, dating from 18,000 BC. The Assyro-Babylonian sun cult, based on the dualism of good and evil, will assign roles and names to the benevolent genii, which are represented mainly as winged bulls, anthropomorphic. This is called lamassu, and it is in the Chicago Institute of Art, dated from 700 BC. Usually they come in pairs and guard the entrances to the temples or palaces. Eventually, instead of the bull, the ox became the symbol of evangelist Luke in the Tetramorph. Also, the Assyro-Babylonian winged priests with 4 wings, accompanied by genii, placated the gods above and observed a strict hierarchical system which brought the cosmos into being. Eventually, their names and functions will be handed down to the Semitic tradition. This relief is from the palace of Assyro-Babylonian II from Yermur, dating approximately 883 to 850 BC, and shows the priest holding vessels to sprinkle purified water with pine cones on the tree under the symbol of Ahura Mazda. This relief was at the back of the king's throne and is approximately 2 meters. Zoroaster, who lived between 660 and 583 BC, reformed the previous religion of Ahura, the god of knowledge that in essence was light, and replaced the Magi priest with the status of king. He created a monotheistic religion exclusively for the Achaemenids, kings of Persia, with Ahura Mazda as the supreme god, the king now of the kings. The revelation of Zoroaster was conferred to him by wisdom in an ecstatic state in the banks of the deity in Azerbaijan. The ecstatic revelation seems to be common among the Semitic religions, and we have examples of apocalyptic visions from the book of Enoch, Ezekiel, and Isaiah, which we shall compare below. The 7 archangels of Ahura, the Ames Pentas, were mentioned for the first time in Babylonian script as both solar and lunar demons. Zoroaster systematized their order and function and created a new cosmogony based on the dualism of good and evil. Then the Lord Ahura Mazda, by a fusion of his 2 names, became Ormaz, who operated in the capacity of a spirit. In art, he is represented with this winged circle, and the symbol of the sun. Here is the facade of the temple from Persephone, shown in relief with Ahura Mazda here, the 5th century. Ormaz commanded 6 spirits who, like him, were benign immortals, as I said, the Ames Pendants, whom we will also encounter in the book of Enoch as the 7 archangels. The power of evil are called Devas and Angra Mainyu, and Ahriman was the prince of demons. Originally, Ahriman may have been a god of the underworld before Ormaz assigned to him the role of his adversary. The Deva's diabolic nature was devoted to trickery and falsehood. If we examine the cuneiform text from the British Museum, we will find images that correspond to Christian demons. They are gloomy, their shadow dark, no light against their bodies. Even they think alone covertly, walk not upright. From their clothes drip bitter gall, their footprints are full of venom. In the next extract, we will also find passages that appear in the apocryphal book of Enoch. Neither males are they, nor females. They are winds, ever sweeping along. They have not wives, engender no children, know not how to show mercy, hear no prayer and supplication. Here we have Demon Papatheodorou from the Louvre, 7th century BC. The inscription says, "I am Papatheodorou, the son of Hanpa, king of the evil spirits of the wind that blows wrathfully from the mountains." The anthropoid demon, Papatheodorou, had also an apotropaic function that could be evoked with incantations. He had lent some of his characteristics to the Gothic gargoyles of the Western cathedrals. A female version of Papatheodorou is the Sumerian goddess of death, Lilith, whose name appears also in Isaac, like a noun who screeches. A hybrid creature, something between a harpy and a sphinx, she has no place in Christian iconography. In the Hebrew and Christian bureaucracy, female demons do not exist. However, the fall of mankind is the doing of Eve. The Sumerian relief from terracotta dates from 1790 BC and belongs to the private collection of Colonel Norman Colville. So, the Zoroastrian cosmogony, which is based in the struggle between good and evil, and the good conquers in the end, has infiltrated the Christian doctrine. In the case of Ahriman, his evil nature was forced upon him by Ahura Mazda. In the Christian religion, the place of evil, the Antichrist, will be assigned to Satan, the fallen angel, because of his pride. A silver plaque from Luristan, 8th century BC, depicts the birth of Ahura Mazda and Ahriman as adversary. In the center is the androgynous figure of Zurvan, the supreme god and personification of time. From his body emerges the twin forms of the opposing principles of good on his right and evil on his left. It goes without saying that this heraldic composition will find its way into the Byzantine iconography of God the Judge, with the righteous on his right and the sinners on his left. An early example of the theme seems to appear in the Basilica of San Apollinar Nuovo. The mosaic dating from the 6th century shows a youthful Christ flanked by two angels. Christ with his right hand points to the one in red with three sheep, the one to his left, which looks blue, Kianus in Ron, has three goals and represents Eosphorus, the Antichrist. The apocalyptic text of the Book of Enoch discusses the demonology of creation, the explanation of the fallen angels, who are responsible for the fall of mankind, because they lasted after the daughter of men. Also, it introduces the participation of the prophet Enoch in the glory of the divine. In the book of Enoch, the names of the seven archangels are: Uriel is over the world and over the Tartars. Raphael is over the spirit of men. Raquel takes vengeance on the world of luminaries. Michael, one of the holy angels, with he that is set over the best part of mankind and over chaos. Saraquel is set over the spirits who sin in the spirit. Gabriel is over paradise and the serpents and the cherubim. And Ramiel, whom God set over those who rise. Likewise, St. John, in the book of Revelations, referred to the seven stars which the Son of God holds in his right hand, denoting the planetary and ethereal universe, a common apocalyptic preoccupation with astrological images. The fallen angels are chained to the Tartars, and there is no mercy for them in spite of Enoch's plea to the mighty God. The name of their leader was Senza, and among the 10 chiefs were Sariel and Azazel, the so-called Asmodeus. The apocalyptic vision of Enoch of the Archangel Michael chaining the demons in hell will appear in the book of Revelation of St. John. Later, and its iconography will adorn the walls of the Greek monasteries, Orthodox monasteries. A wonderful example is this one of Assyro-Babylonian monastery in Mount Athos, dating from 17th century. Nevertheless, we have earlier depictions of hell and Satan in the West, which correspond to the ugly Sumerian descriptions of evil spirits, especially when the book of Revelations of St. John was incorporated into the canonical text. The domain of Lucifer and its hierarchy was first established in the Western iconography around the 9th century. Lucifer devouring the damned is attributed to Pope Pantokrator and dates from the 15th century. It is a mosaic from the cupola of the San Giovanni Baptistry in Florence. The mosaic from the Cathedral of Torcello dates from the 12th century. The demons here, painted dark blue or black, mercilessly carry the damned to eternal fire of hell. Comparing closely the 7 Assyro-Babylonian Ames pentas with that of the 7 archangels of the prophet Enoch, we note that their function converges, and the Creator in both cases is the pure spirit of light that even Enoch, the elect of God, cannot look upon. The book of Enoch, written circa 200 to 100 BC, exists only in the Ethiopian version and has been translated by R.H. the scholar R.H. Charles in 1912, and Burke believes that it was originally written in Aramaic or Hebrew. Enoch's apocalyptic vision follows the ecstatic and symbolic phraseology similar to that of the prophet Ezekiel and Isaac and another apocalyptist. And I looked and saw a lofty throne. Its appearance was a crystal, and the wheels thereon as the shining sun. And there was the vision of cherubim, and from underneath the throne came streams of flaming fire, so I could not look thereon. And the great glory sat thereon, and his raiment shone more brightly than the sun, and was whiter than any snow. None of the angels would enter and could behold. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, yet he needed no counselor. So Dionysius Areopagitis will systematize the Ames pentas of the Assyro-Babylonian and Enoch's archangels into the 9 orders of the celestial hierarchies, which he defined as follows. Hierarchy is, in my opinion, a holy order and knowledge and activity which, so far as is attainable, participates in the divine likeness and is lifted up to illumination given it from God and correspondingly towards the initiation of God. In other words, the Dionysius, who based his literature on the ecstatic vision of the prophet Isaac, Isaac, Enoch, and other apocalypse of the Old Testament, will establish the scheme of a fixed universe initiated by the One as the source of light and his subordinate angels, the bureaucracy of the divine. Furthermore, the contribution, according to Pantokrator, is the idea of the sublime beauty of cosmos as the diffusion of wisdom, symmetry of numbers, order and proportions become ontological principles as well as moral and aesthetic. Dear Dionysius' thesis that the beauty of God, being unified, good, and the source of perfection, converges with the Neoplatonist and Plato's idea of beauty as το καλόν τ' αγαθόν. We do not know who the author was, and there are many candidates among the school of Ioannis Scholasticos. He must have lived around 5th, beginning of 6th century, because he seems to draw his inspiration from the Neoplatonist Proclus, and his theory, Telomerorum Substantia, στοιχείωση θεολογική, and Proclus lived around 410 to 485. He was called Pseudo-Dionysios Areopagitis in order to be distinguished from the disciple of St. Paul who lived in the 1st century AD. In order to understand further his writings, one has to study him in connection with the Neoplatonists Proclus, Iamblichus, and Plotinus. So, in the word of the author, theology has given to celestial beings 9 interpretive names, and among these, our divine initiator distinguishes three whole orders. The most holy, four thrones, and many-eyed and many-winged ones, named in the Hebrew tongue, Cherubim and Seraphim, are nearest to him above others. The second, he says, contains the powers, virtues, and dominions, and the last and lowest choir of the celestial intelligence are called angels, archangels, and principalities. A real finding of 7 four-winged female idols made from terracotta were buried at the foundation of the palace of the Assyrian king Adad-Nirari III, dating from 810 to 783 BC. Their function was apotropaic, and it was called Abkalu, 7 sages. Their form implies cherubim, karubu, or kuribu, meaning propitious and blessed. It is in Akkadian language. Their function may have been that of the guardian of sanctuaries. In Ezekiel's dream, cherubim are acting as the chariot of God, and he rode upon a cherub and did fly, and he was seen upon the wings of the wind. In Christian iconography, the cherubim, possessor of wisdom, pour forth in floods. They have a single pair of blue wings and are richly garbed as Orthodox bishops. Cherubim and Seraphim are depicted accordingly in the mosaic from the Cathedral of Cefalù, Sicily, dating from 1148. This was vision of Seraphim, meaning burning ones, described for the first time a celestial winged being. I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the sanctuary. Above him stood the seraphim, each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. Their function is to celebrate God, His holy glory. The seraphim inflame mortals also towards divine love. In Christian iconography, they are painted in red, and their 3 pairs of wings are red. their swords are red as flame. Here we have a detail from a seraphim from the wall painting from the monastery Philanthropinon, Ioannina, dating from 1545. Also, you can see thrones painted in the city of the Debre Bahan in Ethiopia. There are only eyes. Some scholars have suggested that the four-faced god Marduk may have inspired Ezekiel's vision of the thrones. But here we have a bronze statuette of the four-faced god Marduk from Neriktu, 19th century to 18th century BC. It is most certain that these archaeological findings were discovered during the 20th century, and it seems unlikely that they have influenced any iconographic type. But it was the written text and the oral tradition of the East which finally shaped up the archetype of angels. Drawing their inspiration from the Old Testament and the Apocrypha, artists depicted certain angels in the forms of wheels, which Ezekiel first described. Their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. The wheels are often called thrones, but sometimes seen simply as the mounts of the Cherubim and Seraphim. Their resemblance to the winged sun, the symbol of Ahura Mazda, is mostly evident in the Assyrian cylindrical seal, which date from 9th century BC. The next three orders, dominions, virtues, and powers, are described by Emeritus as wearing long arms, golden girdles, and green stones. They carry golden staves in their right hand and the seal of God in their left. They have two wings and usually have a monogram of Jesus, a seal that they hold. The lowest orders, principalities, archangels, and angels, dressed in soldier's garb with golden belts and carry lances and headed javelins and hatchets. The fresco from Istra depicts angels, principalities, and dominions in a choir around God's throne. They are dressed in chiton and mantle with a strip, trapus, of purple color, like in the outfit of the Roman patricians, indicative of their nobility. The white ribbon around their hair symbolizes their purity, and their anonymity is the sign of their multitudes and power. It is the last and lower order of celestial beings that are mostly depicted in art, the angels and especially the archangels. As no order can advance to the status of the higher order, we are dealing here with a static and fixed image of authority which suited the Byzantine Empire as well as the feudal governments of the West. Therefore, the angels and archangels will soon don the imperial costumes of the Byzantine emperors and their dignitaries. During the early Christian era, the iconography of the angel is connected with funerary art and the resurrection of the soul, and follows classical prototypes. A beautiful example is the child sarcophagus of Cherubim from 34th century in the Archaeological Museum of Constantinople. Two carved-winged angels, reminiscent of the triumphant figures of victories and errors of Greco-Roman art, are bringing aloft the tabula ansata, a medallion ascribed to the name of the dead. Here, however, we have the initial of Jesus Christ. Nevertheless, the worship of the sun cult of the East is the obvious influence in the early iconography of angels within the churches. The theme of the axis mundi, the axis of the world, on the domes and glowing vaults of the early churches denotes the astrological origins and beliefs of the period. In the mosaic from Archbishop Chapel in Ravenna, dating from 440 to 519, four caryatid angels support the sphere of the sun with the initial of Jesus Christ within. The symbols of the four evangelists, the tetramorph, Ezekiel's vision complete the composition. The obsession also of the artist with the symmetry of the number 4, the 4 points of the horizon, sets the pattern for the iconography of the axis mundi. It is interesting to point out that the initial key or X within a sphere is also the symbol of Mitra and indicates the precession of the equinox, another planetary conception of the Platonic cosmogony. Timaeus, in Timaeus, Plato tells us that every 24,000 years the axis of the Earth is shifted. So, here is a relief of Mithra, who is stepping on a key of a sphere, and of course an angel, in the meaning of here, that within the sphere, here we don't have the key, but we have the double cross. In the Egyptian cosmogony, the goddess of the sky, Nut, arches her naked body above the earth to accommodate the daily course of the sun red. In the lid of the sarcophagus of Antles Nefertigre, daughter of Psammetic II, dating from 663 to 525 BC, Nut is depicted as another caryatid directing the sun above. In the mosaic from San Vitale in Ravenna, dating from 546-548, four caryatid angels in the glowing vault support the symbol of Christ, the Lamb, within the sphere, like the sun. Flowery ribbons divide the space in the letter He. The angels step on blue spheres, and their appearance reminds us of classical victories. Their frontality, however, transcends reality. Eventually, the Greek Orthodox Church will impose iconographic rules in the depiction of the theme, and all mechanistic elements will be shed from it. Almighty God, the Pantokrator, wearing a cruciform halo, will occupy the central part of the sphere. The circle will be called God's glory, His essence as light. A variety of representations will evolve through different periods. This is from Zenon Chapel, with the four caryatids. We have also the Ascension in Santa Sofia, Thessalonica, where two flying angels lifting a colorful circle indicated the seven spheres of the universe, and in the fresco from Santa Sofia in Ohrid, dating from 1037 to 1056, four flying angels support a sphere with seven concentric cycles in pure white, indicating the seven spheres in which the Almighty has ascended. And in the mosaic of the dome from Santa Sofia in Kiev, 1037, the Pantokrator as Logos, the Word, is surrounded by four archangels wearing imperial costumes with their chest crossed by the loros and painted as portraits. The celestial and terrestrial dominions have merged into one and the same. In the wall painting of the dome of Senanagiri, Mount Parnon, dating from the 17th and 18th century, a full iconographic cycle has been concluded. The Pantokrator, with all the celestial hierarchies, the 24 prophets, and the Virgin Mary are looking downwards on the congregation in the faithful. A rare iconographic type, based on the axis mundi, is the fresco from the monastery Philanthropinol in Ioannina. The Almighty manifests himself as the angel of the Lord, the essence of his emanation as light. In Hebrew, the word angel, malech, means also the shadow of God. Theologians try to explain the region of the merging of God with that of the One, the source of light, the illumination of all the celestial beings. The iconographic theme, Imago Maiestatis, or Christ in glory, repeats the imperial representations and will become a pattern in Christian iconography with the four archangels on each side of the seated Christ on a throne or that of the Virgin. The mosaic from San Apollinare Nuovo in Ravenna, 6th century, shows Jesus Christ in glory, flanked by archangels, clad in the white with the clavus, the patricians' tribe, in their hiton. Christ is seated and holds a lamp. The frontality and rigidity of the figures denote the Byzantine protocol of the imperial court. It goes without saying that the bureaucratic faction of the four archangels is most evident in the composition of that of the Imago Maiestatis. Eventually, angels will multiply in this composition, which will take another form. The synaxis of the Asomati, the congregation of the incorporeal ones. All the celestial hierarchies holding the Christ child painted within a mandala participate in the celebration of Mass. Orthodox liturgy had to include the angels in its ritual. They are, after all, the messengers with whom humankind will placate the luminous. Then Christ will serve in the twin role of the King of Kings and that of the Archpriest, and he will preside over the liturgy of both men and angels. The theocratic descent of the emperor was thus solidified. Here we have from the monastery of Philanthropinon also King of Kings and great Archpriest, an icon of the 18th century. We find the evidence of this theocracy, the costumes of the archangels as they evolved from the classical baton to the imperial splendor of the Byzantine attire. St. Michael, the archangel, will be assigned the role of the commander of the armies of the Lord, Stratilatis. His warrior's outfit will be based on the consular depicts of the period, like the one of Probus Anicius dating from 4th century. The fresco from the monastery of Greek Orthodox, 1483, is a later depiction of the warrior archangel. Actually, we can date some of his iconographic depictions as a warrior from his various outfits. A characteristic example of a Western representation of the heavenly militia is here by Guariento Ridolfo di Arco, 1348-1354. If we compare the depiction of the archangel Michael, we see that in the ivory of the 6th century resembles a Roman victory. The marble plaque, dating from the 12th century, represents the archangel wearing the klapotos lauros, the studded lauros, and resembles a priest. On the other hand, the portrait here transcends the physical beauty of the archangel into the otherness of the divine. This icon, painted in the 11th century, is in the Byzantine Museum in Athens. I mentioned in passing that only the archangels had their individual portraits painted, no other angels. Other portraits of the archangels are the ones from Ravenna, 9th century, and St. Gabriel wears the hablion and the beautiful shoes studded with precious stones like Emperor Justinian. During the 11th and 12th century, the archangels deserved more and more Byzantine dignitaries with similar costumes like the one from the homilies of St. John Chrysostom. Here is the dignitary and there is the emeritus. Nevertheless, there are two tendencies in the depiction of angels: the revival of the classical appearance, like in the fresco. This is detailed. And the Archangel Gabriel, and the group of angels following Byzantine prototypes wearing the studded lauros in the fresco from the Palladian Andriotis at Astoria, dating from the 11th century. Pseudo Dionysius Areopagitis in his Celestial Hierarchies offers many details with iconography of angels in which the hagiographers found their inspiration. The sublime beauty of the angels moved the artist to portray them more often than other figures from the Bible. Few realistic depictions. Is, however, unable to do justice to the radiance and beauty of these creatures. The icon with the angel with the golden hair is a superb example. It dates from the 12th century and is in the State Museum of Lenin. The hagiographer has captured not only the physical beauty of the face, but also the outwardness of the divine beauty. According to ancient belief, messages were delivered by the flying wind. Hence the angels were called anemi as well by some fathers of the church. The image of the angel unfolding the sky is the fresco from the monastery Hara in Constantinople, dating from 1315 to 1520, portrays the perpetual upward motion of a celestial being. The resemblance of the flying angel to that of the Platonic Eros becomes metaphorically the link of mankind with God of the seven spheres of the universe. And as the fresco portrays the Last Judgment, which is about redemption, it is the angels who placate the God on behalf of mankind, ιερά μεσιτεία.
I'm sure there must be questions and observations, comments. Who will be first?
Yes.
I very much enjoyed your speech and the presentation because it was very complete. I learned a lot of things I didn't know. And I would like to ask about a book that you mentioned, that I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. Eon.
No. Enon.
Enon.
E-N-O. It is an apocryphal.
Yes?
It's not a canonical book. I'll give you, if you like, I don't know if you can find it, is by R.H. Charles, The Book of Enoch, Holland Street Press Limited, 1989, London. Am I too fast?
I just need the
Holland
publishing.
Street Press Limited.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Questions? Comments?
No? Yes.
I have a question about, I'm not sure, do we kind of see the same thing with the Renaissance angels, or is it completely different?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Are there any similarities with the Italian Renaissance angels?
Not at all.
Okay.
The thing is that we like to say, not artists in the Byzantine tradition, but hagiographic. And it was imposed by them to keep repeating the same image with a little bit of variations in line with the artists and schools. The Cretan school, for example, has elongated angels. Some others, they have with costumes. But you cannot represent anything you like according to the rules of the Byzantine iconography. And as I said, only the archangels have portraits in the icons or murals or whatever.
Other questions, comments? They were busy. They had a lot to do.
Oh yes.
Hard work, my sister. Very hard.
Sorry?
Hard work.
I deal with angels. You have to step very carefully.
May the angels bless you.
Could you please say, if you want, a little bit more about the four-faced God? Because I found that
Lamassu.
extremely, yes, extremely
Yes.
interesting.
This statuette is a solid statuette, not very large, and it has four faces. And because of the vision of Ezekiel or Isaac, that there are within the wheels, we're supposed to be like this with many eyes, supposed to have four faces, and that's how scholars believe that the inspiration might have been Marduk. But all these findings, whatever I show you, all the 7 terracottas and other things, were found within the 20th century.
Which means?
Yes, I mean Sumerian and in general, Babylonian, Assyrian and so on, they don't have like an Egyptian archaeology very long past. So it is almost next to impossible that the artist had any idea of these objects. It is the oral tradition and the written tradition in those texts that influence their iconography. Okay. However, cherubim and caribou is the same root of the word. It means wise in Akkadian, and it is also a wise, cherubim are wise in beings in theology.
Another question, another comment? Well, we want to thank you very much, Dr. Papatheodorou, for a very erudite and well-illustrated lecture. We certainly have had a tour of various monuments that many of us did not have the chance to see, especially in one evening, and it certainly indicates that for those of us who are not specialists in Byzantine iconography, and when we look up in churches, we are missing quite a bit. Thank you.
Okay.